Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings, episode 50, I believe, of Cube Ramblings, episode 81 of my Cube World series going on here. And it's fitting. It's fitting that I would find the Firelands or Lava Lands biome when it was a nice round number in our episode sequence here. So it's very, very cool. I'm going to spend probably the next couple of episodes in this biome just exploring everything. You know, get used to the muted colors of that you would not normally associate with this game as I try to figure out exactly what's going on in this biome. But for me, it is a Saturday night, February, I almost said January, February 21st, 2015. I hope everybody's had an excellent week. I have had an excellent and quite restful week myself. I've been spending a lot of time, actually, on Netflix watching some series that I haven't watched TV in ages. So there were a few things on there that I was told I should look at, and I was actually looking at Arrow, I think, the other day, and it was actually passably good. I'm only halfway through the first season, but you know it's not too bad, not too bad at all for a superhero or a hero, you know, a comic book hero TV show. So but that's all I will say about that here. There will be other places that I will probably be talking about that, assuming I get my act together here. I decided on a whim to create a Tumblr account, which is that like microblogging site thing, and it was always in the back of my mind. I was like, but I don't know really what I want to do with it and all that stuff. But I'm thinking there's a lot of random things that I wish to, you know, post somewhere. Both like, you know, player me. I have a player.me page, and I thought, you know, Tumblr would be another one as well. Just to post random stuff that I come along that is not always, it requires a little bit more, I guess, fleshing out than what Twitter would give me. I've tried in the past to do like a couple tweets a day and stuff like that, but I feel like I already have a bunch of automated stuff that's going out to Twitter. Excuse me. And my voice is a bit groggy here. It's not. I just got that frog going on there. So yeah, I've thought about it. I might be posting stuff on there soonish. We'll see. I have to. I'm going to record after this some of the footage for my next channel update, and probably during that I might discuss a little bit further whether or not I'm going to be posting things on Tumblr and whatnot. My initial thought was that I would be just random things, you know, random games that I stumble upon that are very early on, and, you know, TV stuff. Like, hey, I'm watching Arrow right now. It's kind of good. Those kinds of things, just random thoughts that I feel like I want to throw out there, but I don't necessarily feel comfortable putting them on Twitter because you got to be sort of a wordsmith when you put stuff on Twitter because you have such a limited range, and I'm far too chatty for Twitter. Far too chatty, because really to have any kind of good thought you have to sort of have multiple tweets, and then or you got to use something like Twit Longer, and it's like that's just too much work. I want something that gives me a little bit more flexibility in things. So I might be a little bit more active on those things possibly in the future. We'll see. But yeah, I've been besides that, I've been just looking at a bunch of games on the side, as I always do, and trying to keep up to speed, try to keep up to date with the games I've been recording. I have almost no backlog right now. I've gone through pretty much all the backlog that I had. So I'm trying to record some more things, and a consequence of my recording a lot of things now in 1080p and 60 frames per second is that I have almost zero hard drive space left right now. So you're going to see probably the series that I've been doing will stay at whatever resolution and whatever frame rate they're at, but in the future you're going to see me sticking closer more to 720p stuff, 30 frames per second stuff, unless I feel that it's something that really warrants the higher frame rate, which I've been trying to do anyway. I've been trying to limit myself to just things that I think will benefit from the higher frame rate. You know, like first-person shooters with a lot of action in them, racing games, so on and so forth. But I might have to be have even more of a fine-tooth comb when I do that in the future. So, or just, you know, stop being cheap and just get another hard drive, which I might end up doing anyway, one way or the other. So that's a thing. That'll be like hard drive number 3 then in my computer right now. Well, 4 if you count the main partition. But yeah. So I've been so I'm trying to get through a lot of that. Catalog. Also, the other thing that's taking up a lot of space is I still have all the raw footage from my playthrough of what was it? What was the name of it? Wing Commander Saga, still on there, and I'm really thinking I really need to get back on top of that and get that done, get it out there, so I can at least get rid of the raw footage, which takes up, you know, usually 4 to 5 times more disk space than the actual rendered footage does, because, you know, editing and various other things and encoding and all that stuff. So I want to do that because I think that's taking up about 700 gigs right now of my hard drive, which is a pretty significant portion. And I've been trying to record ahead of time, but then I start to run low on disk space and I can't record that far ahead, and so on and so forth. So the problems of being a YouTuber. But as far as the YouTube stuff goes, I am trying to keep up the speed with everything that's going on there, trying to keep all my videos ready to go. I did just end the weekly Soul Zero series, although the series itself will continue. It'll just be occasionally as I find things that I want to record in there, and that's mostly because, you know, I've been playing it for over a year. It's still a fantastic game. Still love the game. Dev of the game has been very active. You know, very tweeting me stuff and everything else, and it's probably, you know, as far as devs go, the only dev thus far that's been that sort of active, that I've been that active with, I should say. There's been others, you know, I get the occasional tweets and stuff like that, but the dev of Soul Zero has been just a stand-up person, and really good with keeping the ship the ship going forward there, and with, you know, updates and everything else. So very cool with that. I feel a pang of guilt not continuing the series, but at the same time, I'm at a point where I'm just sort of min-maxing now, because I've gone through the game once already, and I'm just trying to find better strategies for things and trying to do it better, and I'm failing miserably at it. And I feel like there's only so much of that I can do and still be YouTube entertaining. Like I still get plenty of entertainment out of it for myself, personally, but entertaining myself and entertaining others are two separate things usually. And I felt like I had gotten to a point where I was being a little bit repetitive as far as YouTube goes and YouTube videos go. So I wanted to make sure that I took a break from it, and also just kept took a YouTube break from it anyway, and then just jump back into it as things go along there, as time progresses. Plus, it gives me a little bit more of a chance to focus more on like the spatials, and also to bring another real-time strategy game onto the channel. Although I haven't quite figured out which one I'm going to do yet. There's a couple on my radar. I just purchased Offworld Trading Company, which looks pretty cool. I played the first tutorial on it. I started to play a second tutorial, but I gave up halfway through because I ran out of time. It's another like Mars colony thing, but it's all based around economics, and it's pretty interesting. I feel like I could probably do some videos on that. I don't think it would be a very long series because there's not a whole lot to it yet. It's still pretty early, and it's a lot of sort of numbers games and number management. It's kind of like a spreadsheet almost, but with prettier pictures. So I have to see on that one yet. The other thing that's on my radar is, and I've talked about this already, City Skylines, which I just saw a preview of on one of the sites. I forget which one it is that I frequent, where they said it's actually not half bad. It's, you know, if you're fans of the old SimCity games, you've got it'll feel like old home, which is good. That's a good praise for a game. So I'm hoping that will be the thing, that will be the bee's knees, and that might be the thing that ends up taking up an additional slot on Friday after the Spatials. The Spatials will take over the Soul Zero slot at 10:30 Eastern Time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and then the 2:30 p.m. slot will just stay empty until I have another video for it. Also trying to get a little bit proficient with a few other games, and what game was I trying to? I'm trying to get proficient at a few other. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a minute there. The lights suddenly flickered in here. I was like, oh boy, I hope I'm still recording. So yeah, I'm trying to get proficient in some other like early access games that are out there to try to hopefully do some side quest videos. I've been looking at, I'll give you a little bit of a preview of what some of the things I've been looking at. I've been looking at something called Wolf, the Red Hood Diaries. I'm not going to leave any links to these. I'm just going to rattle these off the top of my head. And that one looks kind of cool. I think I might have even mentioned that at one point in time. But I'm sort of waiting for that a little bit because it's still got some audio glitches, and my controller wouldn't work for some reason. I'm using an Xbox 360 controller and it wouldn't work. There's been a patch to it since the last time I played it, so I'm hoping maybe that will address some of those issues, and then I'll probably do an actual video on that. That one's pretty far along to the point where I could do something like that. There's still a lot of empty spaces in there. Like there's no bosses yet, but it's got enough of the other gameplay that you can kind of get a really good feel for what the game is. And then, as always, I keep jumping into Trove from time to time. It's, you know, I got into Trove thinking that, oh, you know, this is kind of like Cube World. In fact, the mechanics are very similar to Cube World, but they're doing it sort of the MMO sort of style. And, you know, it's okay. There's a lot of community-driven content and stuff, and it's okay, but it was never... I haven't been able to really get into it. I've tried on numerous occasions to get into it, and I haven't been able to. It doesn't... Like, first of all, the art style of it is... I'm not really liking. I mean, and I know that's a petty thing to say, because, you know, I like old games that, you know, hell, I'm playing Republic Commando. The art in that is as you know, as old school as you can get. You know, it's you know, Doom looked pretty much better than it at some points, but it's very, like, the art style is very muddy and very crappy, and it doesn't really, and by muddy I mean it's very colorful, but it's muted, very, very muted, and it's like, ugh. You know, I don't really like it. In many ways, it reminds me of Vox. I have Vox as well, and that's been in development for even before Cube World. That was a very much looks like Cube World thing and Trove thing, and it's been in development even before those two games, and it still is in development as far as I know. And even that is kind of like, the graphic style and that's kind of not really that appealing to me. It kind of, again, it's a petty thing to say, but it kind of does put me off to the game, because as I'm playing around the game, the whole idea of these games is to want to go and explore and find new stuff to do. It's basically a sandbox game where you're trying to make your own adventure. But when your world looks crappy, it's kind of dulls. It kind of dulls the senses and makes you not really want to explore. Like I get into Trove and I'm like, well, this is cool and all, and there's stuff around here to do, but it's so damn ugly that I'm like, I don't really want to explore it. I really don't. It's not like, in Minecraft and in Cube World, like, Minecraft is not going to win any beauty contests, but the terrain generation and the weird and spectacular things that you can come across in these games is what really sells them, as far as going on an adventure and choosing your own adventure and creating your own adventure, right? I mean, you need that sense of exploration. Like, hey, I can walk off in one direction and I can come across all these weird and crazy, peaks and valleys, and every so often you'll come across something that's just absolutely fantastic. And you're like, oh, I gotta build a house there, right? I mean, that's the appeal of Minecraft, and to this a same extent, Cube World, because Cube World has you have quests, but you got to go find them, right? And it's like, well, why would I go find them if the world is terrible looking, right? But in Cube World, it's not. It's like, hey, I want to walk off in one direction. I want to see what else the world can generate, because it's pretty awesome. It's also why I get kind of ticked off when I come across an ocean biome, because it's very like, why would I want that? I mean, I understand that it makes the game feel a little bit more real, but at the same time, it is the most boring biome you can come across. Second only to the snow biomes, right? Because again, they're just very boring. They're like, it's just one bland color, and there's nothing really to see, and it's just it's after you've seen it once, you're like, okay, I've had enough of that. So I try to get through those as fast as I can when I come across them in the game here, but man, it's just like, part of the game, the whole game mechanic is to go off and explore. And if you're not really given a reason to explore, then you've kind of defeated the purpose of the game, and there's no real fun to be had then. But I digress. A lot of people have a ton of fun in those games. I'm not saying that you can't have fun in those games. They are quite fun to play with, especially with Trove, with the multiplayer aspect. You can go on there with a bunch of friends and go off and just have an adventure. But when you're, after a while, it's like, you've seen one castle teetering on the edge of a mountain. You've seen them all at that point. And some of the structures that are generated in Trove are kind of weird. Like you go, like the starting area that I started out in, I went into all the structures, and the interior, even though the exterior was different, vastly different between all of them, the interior was almost identical. Like, well, within reason, right? There was a central chamber that in all of them that is just identical. Like you go in there and all the monsters spawn in the same spot. There might be different monsters, but they all spawn the same way. They all spawn in the same spot. The room itself looks the same, Getting to that room is slightly different. You might have some traps along the way or not, but it's like, it felt very, I don't know, very uninspired to me. And that said, I played that. Last time I played Trove was a few months ago. So it's been changing a lot since then. So I have old eyes at this point when it comes to what exactly it's doing at this moment in time. And they have a lot of community aspect too. Like the community contributes weapons and armor and all that other stuff. So it has replayability in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. It just accept no substitutes is what I come prepared to say. But yeah, what got me on that? Oh, yeah, I don't know what got me on that track of thought. I was thinking of Trove and then Cube World, and then I don't even know how I got on that train of thought. This is how things go. This is how things go in Cube Ramblings. I go off on these tangents, and I don't know how I got off on them. I was just talking about things that were going to come on the channel, things I've been looking at. Along those same lines, since I'm talking about it, I did stumble upon something called Ludoria. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And I'll leave you a link to their website. They're not out yet. They just very first videos they've released of their game. But it is along the same lines of, you know, how I was talking about the aesthetics and stuff. It's got very close to the aesthetics of Cube World, where like you walk around in that world of Ludoria, and it, you know, the videos that I've seen, the world looks really good, right? It's something that you would want to walk around. I feel like, just from looking at the videos. So that's A+ right there, right? Because you're gonna have to explore the world. But the other thing on top of that is it's got sort of the nice generation of Cube World, but it's also got a sort of Pokemon-esque mechanic to it, where the idea is you explore this world, and you pick up ludorinites, ludorums. I forget how it was worded, but they're basically monsters, just like Pokemon are essentially monsters. You would pick them up and train them, ? But you make them part of your team somehow, and through them you manipulate the world. So there's like one pet that you get, or one monster that you collect, that gives you light. So as you're walking through caves, you can use that monster to give you light to illuminate the area. There's another one that does mining, and it's all voxel based terrain. So that can go mine right through the terrain and all that stuff. It's really cool. It's for what it looks like, it's a single player game with some multiplayer on it, from what I can gather. It sounds like it's more of the Minecraft model of multiplayer, where it's like somebody hosts a server and then everybody can join it. Whereas, Trove is like central servers with, an MMO type of thing. This is more like a build your own server or bring your own server model, is what it sounds like. So that would be pretty cool. I'm just keeping an eye on it. I'll leave a link, as I said, in the description. It's something, it's piqued my interest, and it's something I'd be kind of interested in. I've never actually, I think I mentioned this before, but I was born too early for Pokemon, I think. Pokemon didn't really become popular until, I would say, the early 90s? Probably in the mid-90s, in the US anyway. I don't think it became popular until the mid-90s. And by that point, I was already 15 years old, and I had moved on to girls and heavy metal at that point. So Pokemon wasn't really the thing. I was, as I said, I was born a little bit too early for them. I was more a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles / X-Men / what was the other one? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, Gargoyles, which it's surprising. I ramble off these things, and it dawns on me that these shows all had like the voice actors were pretty popular in those shows. Like Gargoyles, for instance. I went back and I listened to an episode of it. Just for nostalgia purposes. Every so often, I'll go back and listen to something that I had that I used to love as a kid, and just to see if I was just being a kid or if I was actually onto something, get a little nostalgia trip out of it. And I think I was listening to one episode of Gargoyles, and I'm like, oh my God, I did not even realize how many people from Star Trek, The Next Generation, that did voices for that, did voiceovers for that series. But it's pretty funny. You hear, as the series goes on, you hear a lot of the voice acting. You start to recognize the voices and everything. But it's just like I didn't realize until just about an hour ago. I was watching the intro to an old video game called Full Throttle. And I've heard of this game before. It was it was an old LucasArts game with like using iScrum or iMuse as the music thing, and Scrum as the VM, which was the text-based adventure game, like semi-text-based adventure game where you click on actions and various things, point and click, and did not realize that Mark Hamill had done one of the voices in it. In fact, he was in the intro as the one guy in the limo, not the old guy, but the other guy. And not only did he do the voice for it, but he was in full on like Joker mode. Like you listen to it, and you're like, oh my God, I'm listening to the Joker from Batman the Animated Series. I mean, literally, he did the same voice, pretty much, except without all the without all the spice. It was more of a serious Joker, you know what I mean, rather than a clown. So it was very funny to hear that. Very, 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 very funny to me. So yeah, I never really got into the Pokemon stuff, and I know that there's some like mods for Minecraft to do it, and I was not, of course, Pokemon's a very popular card game, plus video games and everything else, but never was into it. But then I look at something like this, and I like Ludoria, and I'm like, I could maybe possibly get into it somewhat. I have to really take a look at it, because again, it's like even things like Monster Hunter, was that one of them, where it's like you capture monsters and stuff, like even that stuff was never really seemed that, I was never turned on by any of that for want of a better word. Never been turned on by any of that necessarily. Like, oh, I gotta have them all, it's just, but I could, my arm could be twisted. I am open-minded enough that I would actually try it once and see if it is actually something I'm into or not. Much like if there was a Monster Hunter game or something out there that was like, you must play this. This is the best one in the series. I might be tempted to like go try it and see. Probably not do a video of it, but I'd probably be tempted to try it out and see if it's actually something up my alley or not. Yeah, I wanted to mention that because I had mentioned Trove and Cube World, and it's kind of a mix of all those things. But then it goes off on its own and does its own thing, which is a good thing. Because you don't want another clone. You want something that takes the genre and goes a little bit further with it. Because you see a lot of these Minecraft-esque clones going out, and not entirely. I mean, they're trying different things, but not necessarily going far enough with them. I think there's something called Skyborn or something like that. I think Generic B is doing a video series on something like that. Sky something or other. I forget the actual name of it, but I kept getting the same feeling out of that. It was like, oh, okay, they just took Minecraft and sort of iterated a little bit, but not enough. It didn't feel like, from what I saw. And there was one that Good played ages and ages ago that I felt the same way on that too. That said, I did kickstart Planet's Cube, which I have to follow back up on because I feel like I might have some kind of alpha or beta access to that, but I don't know if anything has come out yet. There's a bunch of things in the back of my head that I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably go re-follow up on these things and see what's going on, see what state they're in, because I haven't touched them in ages, so I don't know. So that's one of them I have to follow up on, and then I think and then Universe Sim, which is not really the same thing, it's something else entirely, but I did just see an update come out from that, so I have to circle around and see what's going on there. And speaking of other updates that have come out, or keeping up to date with things, I just saw today, about an hour ago, that Phoenix Universe of Space Combat, which is something I've been waiting for a long time. They've just released a preview demo. It's free for everybody. It's on their IndieDB page. I have to dig up a link to it, but I will put a link in the description for that. The reason that this has been on my radar for so long is it's a fresh new take on the game called Subspace, which was a 2D top-down multiplayer space fighter arena thing, where you would fly around in certain arenas and fight other players, and it was a really basic game, but a really fun game too. And I remember playing a lot of multiplayer where you just go on and they had like soccer matches that you would do, where you could pick up a ball and run with it and then try to shoot it on goal, and all these custom made maps that people had made, and it was pretty cool. It was an unreleased game. It was a game that was abandoned. It was basically abandonware, and the community took it up and remade it, or not remade it, but revitalized it and made it a nice little cult underground thing that people really enjoyed. The problem is they got really anal about cheating and whatnot, to the point where, like, I looked about 6 months ago or something at downloading the Subspace client and playing it, and it's like, no, if you have any antivirus software or anything else on your system, like, this is not going to work, because we don't let you have that. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like 99% of all the systems out there right now have some sort of antivirus software on them, because it's absolutely necessary to have it there. But yeah, they got really, really retentive about, cheating and preventing cheating and preventing botting and all that stuff. And they went a little bit too far over the deep end and kind of drove away most of the community that was there. But I say that speculatively. I got out of I haven't been a part of the community since 1999 or so, or 2000, around that time. So it's been quite a long time for me too. So I can't really talk from a position of authority on that either. But it does. As I was mentioning, Phoenix Universe of Space Combat takes all that stuff and actually makes it a little bit better and hopefully smoother and everything else. I literally just downloaded the demo. I haven't installed it yet. I need to do that. I'd like to be able to see it. Right now, as far as I know, the demo is just single player against up to 300 bots, which is, it'll be probably a good judge of whether or not it's how smooth the game is and the mechanics and everything else. The thing I remember the most about Subspace was that the controls are very tight on it. Like you could turn on a dime if you need it. Well, kind of. You could kind of turn on a dime if you needed to, but you could get out of trouble whenever you needed to. It always felt like you were whenever you died, it was your own damn fault for dying. And that's the kind of games I like, right? It's like, I got that feeling too, and I think I mentioned it in my playthrough of Shadow Blade Reload, where it feels like the controls are tight enough that when you mess it up, it was definitely your mistake. It was not something that the game did. Although the controls in that game, being pre-alpha or being alpha or early access, whatever you want to call it, there are some problems there, as I mentioned in the video, where it was like, he kept running to the left all the time. I don't know why that is. I had no fingers on the keypad or on the gamepad or anything. He kept running in one direction. But I think that's probably just a bug that's, an input bug of some sort. They're going to sort out before that becomes a thing. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I want to see what it looks like. I've been waiting patiently for a while here, and we finally have a demo. And I believe the developer was had delayed it several times just to make sure that it was as tightened up as needed be. So I'm waiting to see. I can't wait. I want to jump in there and take a look at it. And what else? So some news. So Relogic, the makers of Terraria, released a trailer this week for a new game called Terraria Otherworld, and it's by both them and a company called Engine Software. They're teaming up on it, and very little details as to actually what this is, other than just the trailer video that came out. And from looking at the trailer, I can tell you it is Terraria, but it's the aesthetic of it is completely changed to be more of a fantastical Terraria. So if Terraria was somewhat rooted in real life, I say that knowing full well that you've got Skeletron and all those things in there. So it's just, if Terraria is more realistic, quote unquote, Terraria Otherworld is much more fantastical. Everything's got sort of I'm trying to think of what I could compare it to as far as aesthetics go. It's kind of got like the if you've ever played it's a very, very old game called Hocus Pocus. It was like a 2D platformer from Epic Mega Games, maybe? No, it was somebody else. I think it was published by Epic, but it was somebody else that did it, maybe. Yeah, I can't remember entirely, because all I had was the demo of it the shareware version of it that I played back in the day. But it's kind of got a little bit of that aesthetic, where it's sort of like it's taking wizards and everything's sort of got like wizardy flourishes on it, and all the the special effects and everything have got a lot of sparkles and all kinds of stuff like that. It's interesting. It's an interesting little like basic flip of aesthetics, and it looks like they've got brand new enemies in it. There was some sort of mech looking thing, like that wasn't really a mech. It was more of it was like a enchanted suit of armor type of thing that was stomping around that they were fighting, and for a very brief moment during the video. It's very hard to grasp exactly what's going on there, other than it's more Terraria but different from the video that was released to the public. So I will leave you a link to the Destructoid article on it, because it's the only one that has any kind of information in it. Most of them are just like, most of the other articles that were out there were like, here's a trailer and we have no idea what else is going on here. So that's something to look forward to, maybe. I played a little bit of Terraria back in the day. I didn't play all the way through to the end, and when I was playing, it was version 1.0. I didn't really play Terraria version 2 or whatever they called it, that had all the release of all the huge end game monsters and all that stuff. I didn't really get that far into it. I just played a little bit of it and then sort of did my thing. Just sort of moved on after that. But yeah, that's something else to look forward to if you're looking for more Terraria. We've got. It's kind of interesting. I was just talking about all the Minecraft alikes, and now we're getting a lot of the Terraria alikes too. We've got the Signs of Life, which is closer to Terraria than Terraria Otherworld is, but still not quite. It's sci-fi through and through. And then you've got what was that? What was the other one? Oh, you've got Starbound, which recently had a big update. What do they call it? The upbeat giraffe release of it, which I got, because I have it on Steam, so I have it downloaded. I just haven't played in ages because I've been kind of waiting. Apparently, this latest update, the full update here is got a lot of the progression system now in place that wasn't there before. There's actual objectives and places to go and things to do. It's not the here's your sandbox, make an adventure for yourself. It's more of a here's the actual progression that we wanted in the game from the beginning. So I'm kind of interested to jump back into it. It sounds like it's a whole new game at this point, so I might have to relearn everything. So I'm interested in going back into that a little bit. Kind of. I kind of not either. I'm sort of on the fence because it's yet another sandbox game that will take, boku amounts of time to really do anything in, and it's. I'm trying to shy away from some of the games that require lots of time off camera doing things, because I don't have lots of time off camera to do things. At the same time, I like playing those games, so I might have to strike some sort of. I've been trying to strike some sort of compromise in the middle where I can still play all those things and record them and still have something respectable at the end of the day. Which also brings me to Medieval Engineers, which I mentioned last week that I had got the pre-order of it, the pre-early access version of it. And now it's in early access, so it's out for everybody now on Steam. But I've been playing a little bit in that. It looks like it's only got creative mode right now, from what I can tell. And you can make some really nice stuff in there. Really nice, like to the point where I'm like, I kind of really like what I'm seeing in Medieval Engineers, even more so than Space Engineers, because it feels more to use an ironic phrase here. It feels more grounded than Space Engineers, just in terms of giving you inspiration for what you want to do. Because I look at Space Engineers and I'm like, yeah, I could kind of make some spaceships, but everything I make is going to be based on some spaceship I've already seen in sci-fi movies and stuff. I don't really have in my mind a space station or a spaceship that I would build that's completely custom, or that's a hybrid between multiple spaceships, right? But having said that, they are bringing planets and stuff into Space Engineers, because now Medieval Engineers is using the same engine, so now they've got both pretty much the same code base, so they can just move one into the other, and you'll be able to like land your ships onto the planets and everything like that. So that said, if they brought planets into it, I might be more inclined to doing Space Engineers too, or at least only, whatever the case may be, because I can see myself like building a space station, say. That sort of captures my attention more, or what I think would be the ultimate thing, and this would be you know, no shortage of a feat to accomplish. But if they seamlessly were to integrate both medieval engineers and space engineers, at least the ground clutter and all that stuff, I would love to be able to go into space engineers and build a Dyson sphere, which for those of you who are aware of either Freeman Dyson, the physicist, or was he a physicist? I think he was a physicist, yeah. Or Star Trek: The Next Generation. You'll know what a Dyson sphere is. It's basically a ginormous sphere built around a star, and because it's built around a star, it gathers all the energy of that star, which means that you can essentially have livable space if it's the circumference of it is, or I should say if it's completely contained within the green zone of a star, where life can exist, then you can basically build, an entire inner sanctum around the inside of the sphere that is all ground and vegetation and life, and it would benefit from almost unlimited source of energy, basically from the star. Really interesting concept, and it's if they could do something like that in Space Engineers, by bringing some of that terrain generation and stuff in, and maybe you're able to do some things, like maybe you're able to transport rocks and dirt and everything off of a planet in your cargo bay and then bring it out into space and do stuff with it, then I might you might not hear from me for about a month as I build that. But yeah, as far as it goes with like medieval engineers and space engineers and all that stuff, I want to play these games. I want to create stuff in them. I feel like in order to do it the way that I can only do it, I will probably do those as live stream stuff. I would like to get back into the live streaming. I've skipped the last couple weeks, the last couple Fridays, just because I've been sort of not really in the mood. And to be perfectly honest, the last 2 months, like I've been watching back, like I tend to watch back my own videos, because one of my rules for YouTube was that I would create videos that I would watch, and if other people like to watch them, then awesome, but they have to be videos that I would watch. If I play back one of my videos and I fall asleep while listening to it, then I'm not doing it right, is basically the way I've been. That's my measuring stick. So I've been playing back the videos from the last two months, and I've noticed that my commentary is really off. Like, I am really off. There is no, and by off I mean there's no real personality in any of those videos, which really sucks, because I feel like that's the thing that was one of the reasons that I started doing YouTube, was to try to actually figure out if I had a personality. But also it's one of those things where I feel like I feel like I was doing better before then than I am the last 2 months. Like, I feel like Shadowblade Reload is doing a good thing for me right now. Like, I feel like I have more commentary in that, even though there's a lot of periods of silence as I try to concentrate. There's still a lot of good, like, commentary in it that involves me having a personality, or me showing you that I have a personality. And then I look at like Republic Commando, and yeah, I'm spending a lot of time just concentrating and not actually saying anything, and everything I say is kind of incidental and nothing really. I'm not really into the character like I should be, and like I'm not getting immersed as much as I was. And I feel like, the one good thing about Deus Ex was that I was getting really immersed in the game, even though it didn't really come out well in the commentary. Like, I didn't feel like there were moments. I had moments. I feel like there was a couple moments in there where I wasn't really in Jensen's mind, right? There were a couple moments when I was, and there were a couple moments when I wasn't. Particularly towards the end, I started to not be in Jensen's mind anymore, and I was just sort of like just playing the game and not really getting into it as much. Even though I enjoyed the hell out of it, I was still kind of not really quite into it at the end. I had backed off a little bit, and I want to get back to that. I want to get back to where I'm fully in the game and I'm actually in with the character. Sorcery's helping a little bit with that because I have to, speak with voices and not only with voices but also like have some kind of, drama, I guess, behind my voice. But the last couple of games, like Banner Saga, I haven't quite, I'm sure it's come across, but I haven't quite gotten into the characters in the Banner Saga. Like, I haven't found a character yet that I could actually sort of relate to, and I'm trying, but I'm not like really, I don't really care for the characters yet, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can sort of just get into the world, just immerse myself in it, and so hopefully I can get back to that. I think identifying the problem is the big thing. Now that I've identified the problem, I need to sort of work on that a little bit more, and I'm going to try to work on that some more. Over the next couple of weeks, so like actually get into what I'm playing instead of being sort of a passive observer all the time. And some of that comes from, I feel like I started to lose it a little bit with the the Forza Horizon 2 DLC. Because the DLC for the Storm Island DLC took you away from the city and just put you out in the midst of a very bland scene where it's mostly raining and there's not a whole lot going on. So there wasn't a whole lot of things that I could sort of comment on. So I kind of lost a little bit of a step because of that. Whereas when you were driving through the main island, through all the cities and stuff, you can say, oh, I just crashed through the phone system. I've just set them back 300. I just set them back 100 years. Things of that nature, where I can sort of interject some, humorous things, hopefully, or at least mildly humorous things. And I feel like I'm doing that a little bit with Shadowblade Reload. Although there was even more I wanted to do, and I lost focus while I was doing it. There was a lot more phrases I wanted to say, like I'm the ninja that always every time he kills somebody has something stupid to say about it. And I was trying to do that, and I did it a little bit, but I started repeating myself, and I started to lose focus because I was focusing on trying to get through as fast as I can and everything else. So I have to get back into that. I'm going to keep trying on that front. I have to actually record some more of that anyway, because I only had the 2 episodes done, so I need to get back on top of that probably tomorrow. Well, today now, because it's past midnight. But yeah, work on that. And as far as like some other games like Medieval Engineers and possibly Space Engineers or something like that, I feel like those are probably going to be live stream only things, where I'm just going to live stream them, and then I'll leave VODs up on Twitch or on Hitbox. I'd like to do some more streaming from Hitbox as well, because the quality over there is a lot better because they don't have anybody watching. But at the same time, there's nobody watching over there, so they can have all the quality in the world, and it doesn't really help. So, but I might switch between the two. I might do maybe I'll do Medieval Engineers and stuff over there. I've also been playing, or learning, I should say, to play the Heroes of the Storm. I finally, last week or so, got an email from Blizzard saying, "Hey, congratulations, you're now in the closed beta of Heroes of the Storm." So that was pretty cool. I loaded it up yesterday and today, and I played it I played it some today, some of the tutorials and everything else, just getting kind of used to it. So I might end up streaming some of that, which may be which may end up being a huge mistake, because I know as soon as I start streaming something like Heroes of the Storm and people come in there and like, you really suck at this game. I'm like, yep. That's all it's going to be. It's just constant comments like, you really suck at this game. I'm like, yep. Yes, I do. But I'll do it anyway. Why not? Why not? At least once anyway. But I might stream some of that. I was thinking of actually streaming that on Friday night, because I did one of the tutorials on Friday night. But then I thought, no, you know what? Let me get a few more tutorials under my belt, and a few more practice rounds under my belt before I actually jump in head first into that cup of water at the end of the diving board. So so yeah, I've been playing that. That's actually it is the baby's first MOBA, which is what I kind of wanted, because to be honest, like things like Dota and League of Legends are just too freaking hardcore for me. Like they're just too hardcore for me. I can't enjoy games like that. It's just not possible for me. I'm too casual to enjoy games like that. Especially when they drag on for as long as those games do. The Heroes of the Storm stuff, the game, it looks like the games don't drag on for very long. Maximum would be like 25 minutes to half an hour, which is very good, because I can't hold my attention for more than that. With all the constant back and forth and stuff, it would just drive me nuts. That's one of the things I liked about Awesome Knots too, was that even though there was a lot of back and forth, each match was over fairly quickly. It didn't take very long to eventually win over. It was just, having a match go for an hour or something like that would be just too ridiculous for me. I just couldn't. I wouldn't be able to deal with it. I would get so bored by it. Like, okay, I'm just going to throw this match now at this point, which apparently was a big problem that a lot of people have had in with League of Legends and Dota, where people just kind of get fed up and are like, and they just throw it. Right? It's like, well, in fact, to the point where the developers had to put, I think, some sort of penalty in or something like that. I don't know all the details of that, but I remember reading an article where they were like, yeah, we have this problem where people quit early when they're losing, so we put some sort of mitigation in about that to make them more likely to stay by for the entire match, even if they're losing heavily. In fact, there was an article that went out that I swear it was an Onion article, but it was on an actual article on an actual site, mainstream site, where it's like, yeah, we're trying to encourage parents to let their kids stay up and play one of those games. I don't know if it was League of Legends or Dota, and if they're in the middle of a match, to encourage your kids to finish the match rather than forcing them to go to bed immediately. And I'm like, are you really serious? Are you? Is this the Onion? Did I get trolled here? But I swear I saw that somewhere. I don't have the link to it, but I swear I saw it on some site. I don't know if it was Polygon or VG247, or it was one of those sites, I swear. And it was just hilarious. I just said, I can't believe I just read this and it wasn't on the Onion. So that's a thing. So yes, I've been playing Heroes of the Storm, the beta, and I will probably do a live stream of that at some point. I don't think I'll ever put that on YouTube unless it's to highlight something that I failed miserably at or something along those lines. But at the very least, I'm going to have, what I'm getting at is I'm going to have videos that exist only on Twitch and videos that exist only on YouTube, rather than trying to do both at the same time. Because it just, there will be some times when I will bring live streams over, but I'm going to keep that to a minimum because I feel like YouTube is should be more of a edited, the video should be a little bit more polished and edited there, and Twitch is more of the Wild West when it comes to that. But people are more used to just having multi-hour things that they just kind of listen in the background. So I'm kind of trying to, I will still on occasion just upload entire live streams straight up to YouTube, but I'm going to keep that to a minimum, I think, and I'm sort of going to keep those VODs over on Twitch or over on Hitbox, whatever I happen to do, and just kind of leave them over there. And if they do come over to YouTube, it'll be, in some sort of highlight form or whatever. That's my plan anyway. Whether or not I actually keep up with that plan is another story, because I want to actually stream more than just once a week. The weekends are very difficult to do it on, but I could probably do it from time to time, although I won't follow any kind of schedule. It'll just be a random stream if it's on a weekend or not. But I also want to see if I can do it another day of the week. So Friday will always be a good day, but I also want to see if maybe I can do it on like a Wednesday night too. We'll see. I nothing's set in stone yet. I have to really figure this out. I have to really, and changing jobs, I don't know what, I know that this next week I'm going to be pretty damn tired because I'm going to be learning a brand new system and so on and so forth, getting used to a new job and everything. So probably not going to happen this month, probably in March maybe. So we'll see. Also, what else? I have a lot of other things on the list here. So I went and threw $25 at the Humble Bundle this week. Not this week, but the one that's going on right now. It's the Humble Square Enix Bundle 2. It's going on until March the 3rd. And let's see what they have in there right now. They've got, so Hitman Absolution is in that. I installed that and started playing the first mission of it, and I can see it's got the same. I've never really sat down and played a Hitman game past like the first mission or two, because they all have the same problem, right, with me, and that is I get to a point in the mission and I don't know what to do. Like, I know what I need to do as the overall mission objective. I don't know how to get from A to B to do it, right? And it's the same thing with Hitman Absolution. Like, I was playing through the first mission and I get to a greenhouse and I'm like, okay, well, I'm dressed up as a groundskeeper, but, the game's like, oh, these guys will know that you're not one of them, so you got to make sure you don't tip them off. And you're like, well, okay, so how do I get across the room without tipping them off, number one? And number two, once I get across the room, there's a guard there who's not going to let you leave. So how do I do anything there? And there's nothing to pick up to throw to distract them with or anything. So it's I kind of get in those spots where I'm like, I don't know what to do here. So I end up just pulling out my guns and shooting everybody, which is what I did. So, and I passed the mission eventually, but I did have like a couple shootouts along the way, which is not it's not a bad thing. Like, the game doesn't necessarily, the game does take points off when you do that, but it doesn't necessarily stop you from doing that. Like, it'll still say, hey, you've completed your objective, right? It'll still continue. It's just you won't get as many points as you would have had. And so I've always liked that about the Hitman games. It's just, that's always the thing that's always put me off too, is like, I get to a point where like, I want to be like Silent Assassin. I want to be that guy, but I don't know how to get from here to there. And I don't know what the game's going to let me do as far as what I can and can't do. Like, a good example is in Hitman Absolution in the first level. Like, I knocked out the cook and, took his disguise, like took his clothes as a disguise. And I thought, well, okay, this will be good. I can like, I can go do stuff. And I walk out in the main area, and then, the game mentions like, hey, the main guard likes his coffee. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I can slip something into his coffee, and then I'll be able to just take the key card, access card off of him. Well, the game's like didn't give me any option to do that. Like I was looking all over the kitchen for stuff, and I was looking, I couldn't even pick up his coffee cup or anything. In fact, the coffee cup was like floating in midair and stuff. I was like, I don't know what to do here. So I ended up just picking out, just taking my gun out and shooting all of them, which worked. But it took like 2,000 points off of me for doing it. So it's one of those weird ones. I've always wanted to record a Hitman game and play one through all the way. And it looks like Hitman Absolution looks like a really good game that I could do that with. I always have that, that murkiness where I'm like, I know I'm going to get in these spots where I don't know what to do. And then that makes for bad videos because I know I got to edit a whole bunch of stuff out where I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to, I'm just going to take the laser out and just shoot everybody. Which is not as good a payoff as doing it the right way. So, I don't know. Maybe in the future, maybe I will do that. Maybe I'll play a little bit more of it off camera and then come back and play it through on camera and maybe we'll have something there. Also in the humble Square Enix bundle was bundle 2, Supreme Commander 2, like a RTS game. I've heard of it, but I've never actually played it, so I don't know what it's like. Hitman Go, which is a really cool looking mobile, really unique concept mobile Hitman game for Android, where everything's sort of on a. It's very hard to describe it, but it's like all your characters are sort of on tracks, like you would see in those hockey bubble games that you would play, and you sort of have to move them around and you give them orders and try to do things in the best possible way. It's a neat little concept. I might play that on camera. I have to play it off camera to see what it's like, to see if I'd like it or not. But that might be a candidate. Tomb Raider, the remake Tomb Raider is in this bundle. Sleeping Dogs, Thief, the remake of Thief, Murdered Soul Suspect, which I've heard some things about, but I've never actually seen any playthrough of, so that might be an interesting one to take a look at. Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut. I know all about that game, which means I now have a second copy of that, so I probably will be sending a tweet out at some point next week saying, hey, who wants a copy of Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut? Direct message me and you'll get it. Also, the Kane and Lynch collection, which I don't know if I'll ever play that or not. And then there's some more games apparently that will be coming soon. There's about 9 days left right now, if I'm reading that correctly. March the 3rd, it's supposed to be over. So yeah, that's about right. Go over there and take a look at it and see what if there's anything there you like. There's pretty good games there. If you've been waiting to, for Tomb Raider or for Thief or Hitman Absolution to go on sale, then maybe you could just go over and plunk $25 down or so, or $20 down, and get all of them. You have to pay more than the average, which right now is $7.46 to get Thief and Murdered Soul Suspect and Deus Ex Human Revolution and Kane and Lynch and whatever other game is coming. And then if you pay $15 or more, you get Sleeping Dogs and Tomb Raider. And then, of course, you can pay what you want for the Hitman Absolution, Supreme Commander 2, and Hitman Go. So there you go with that one. That is the latest Humble Bundle that's out there. What am I doing on time here? I am doing pretty good on time. So I mentioned City Skylines is something else I'm looking at. It's like a SimCity thing that looks pretty cool. I'll leave a link to the sort of preview article that I was reading a little bit earlier that talks about how it's, if you like SimCity, you'd probably like this. So I'll leave that out there. Also, I have been, I've got Out There Omega Edition. I played through the beta. The beta is like first quarter of the game, and then it stops you. It's pretty cool. It's pretty much the original Out There game, but with much fancier graphics. Much fancier. Very cool to look at. And it's PC only, as far as I can tell. They will be coming out with Out There pretty soon. Out There Omega Edition will be coming out pretty soon. But from that same company, MacLeod, I believe is how you call it, is how you say it. They've announced this week another game that they're going to start working on, and it's intriguing already. The concept for it. It's called Sigma Theory, and it's going to be very similar to Out There and all that stuff, which is Out There is like FTL without all the combat. And it sounds like it's going to be in the same vein, this Sigma Theory, but it's going to be full of political intrigue. Basically, you're sort of the head of a covert operations unit, and you have to basically do all this clandestine stuff and manage all this sort of political, navigate these political waters and all kinds of stuff. And it sounds pretty cool. I mean, they Out There in and of itself sounds like an interesting concept where it's like, you're an FTL but without the combat, and you kind of look at it and you're like, I don't know how that would be. But then you look at it, you play it, and it's like, oh yeah, this is actually really good. And I have a feeling that Sigma Theory, even though it sounds kind of weird and maybe possibly a little bit boring, it actually, I have a feeling they'll pull it off really well. So I'm going to keep my eye out for that. I will leave you a link to Pocket something. I forget the name of the publication. It's Pocket Tactics. That's what it is. I'll leave you a link to that, to their article talking about it. There's not a whole lot of details yet, but they at least have some details about what they're thinking about, and what their inspiration for the game is. And I must say that I'm intrigued by it, so I'm going to keep my eye on it and see what it looks like, because Out There is a very good game, and I can only imagine that they're only going to be better, even with this other concept that they're coming up with. My voice, not my voice, my English, my words are not quite there anymore. They're sort of leaving me right now. I can feel it. I can feel them just running away. I have it. I've had it. I'm done. I'm out. But before I depart from you guys for another week, I want to talk about the latest Shadowrun stuff. I have installed Shadowrun finally. Shadowrun Returns and its expansion, Dragonborn or Dragonfall or whatever it was, and I've started to play them a little bit, just to get an idea for it. And yes, I will probably do some sort of series on it. I don't know if I'll do it as a live stream or if I'll do it as a YouTube thing. It might be a YouTube thing because there's a lot of the tactical combat in there that you might want to fast forward through. But I've been playing that, and it is pretty cool. I'm not really familiar with the background of Shadowrun. I know that there was a game way back in the day, but I'm not really that familiar with the universe. So I'll be going into it blind by and large. But they just had a very successful Kickstarter for the next expansion to it called Shadowrun Hong Kong. They were looking for, which basically adds 4 to 5 more hours onto the main campaign. They were looking for, they went on Kickstarter asking for $100,000. Their Kickstarter just completed at $1.204 million for the $100,000 they were looking for. So that's pretty, I can imagine that they're more than ecstatic about this. And they did a really good job from what I can tell, with Shadowrun Returns. So I would imagine that's a lot of that Kickstarter is just people like, yes, you know what? We want to reward you for everything that you've done. So that said, I wanted to note that out there. I will I might be looking at Shadowrun at some point in the future. I might be recording episodes of that. I am intrigued by it. It's the more cyberpunk stuff that I've been kind of looking for, that I always tend to look for. So it has me in its jaws, in its grasp, and I'm trying to look at it to see what it's like. I also said that I was looking into Blackguards as well, but my initial thought on Blackguards, it kind of stands so far, in that it seems like a very complicated game, very, very complicated. But I will probably put some more time into it before I decide whether or not it's something that I actually want to record, because it's just because again, it is so complicated. I'll end up spending hours just kind of looking at particular screens and whatnot, trying to figure out what the heck's going on and what I'm supposed to do. Whereas Shadowrun, I looked at that and I was like, well, I can pretty much understand what's going on here pretty quickly. I don't know the whole universe, but I understand enough that I can kind of muddle my way through some things. So that seems like something that's a little bit easier for a noob like me to pick up as time goes on. But none of that will come to fruition until I've gone through the Banner Saga at least. And then looking for some racing games. I've been on again, off again about Project Cars. Project Cars, by the way, was just pushed back a couple weeks to April now, the release of that, because they're doing some more tweaking. But I'm on again, off again about that, because I know it's a sim game, and I know I don't necessarily like sim games as far as racing games go. I like the arcadey racers more, but I'm very tempted to buy it, at least for the Xbox One, and try it out and see what it's like. So that may be the next racing game that I do. It may or may not be. I was thinking Distance would be, or Need for Speed, but it may be Project Cars. We'll see. I might try the sim game again, just to either verify that I really don't like them, or to find out that I actually kind of do like them. This is how I operate. I say, like, let me just try it anyway and see. So it was like, I mean, it's $60, right? It's just $60. Who cares? Speaking of, it's just $60. Who cares? I just actually pre-ordered Battlefield Hardline too. So, lots of AAA games in the future. Lots of AAA games there. Not all at once, though. Not all at once. But I think that will just about do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And I will see you next Sunday.